One. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and welcome to tonight's December 9th, 2020 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. It's now been nearly 8 months that we've been meeting remotely during the COVID pandemic. And again, tonight's meeting is being conducted remotely on Zoom, broadcast in Brighton on Spectrum Cable Channel 1303, and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel, all in compliance with Governor Cuomo's executive orders modifying some of the provisions of the state open meetings law to enable local governments like the town board here in Brighton to continue to meet remotely in a way that is open and accessible to the public. We continue to do that by beginning or very close to the beginning of every meeting, even these Zoom meetings, holding an open forum. When the open forum begins, you'll be able to call us at 303-3060, and someone will take your call and pass along your questions, your comments to me. Another way we continue to be accessible is by providing you with our ASL sign language interpreters. Tonight we have Heather and Allie. Welcome, thank you both of you, we appreciate it. And just as a reminder, as is always the case, the agenda and all the supporting documents for tonight's town board meeting are all available on the Town of Brighton webpage, townofbrighton.org. I'll start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Last week, December 1st, was recognized around the world as World AIDS Day. And I'm going to read a proclamation that the town of Brighton issued to recognize World AIDS Day on behalf of the entire town board. Whereas the first ever Global Health Day, World AIDS Day, was founded in 1988 to increase public awareness of HIV/AIDS and unite people worldwide in the fight against HIV in the face of profound prejudice, misinformation, and fear. Whereas over the course of the past 3 decades, great strides have been made in the treatment of HIV, and yet there remain some 38 million people living with HIV around the world, of which 1.8 million are children, and 1.7 were new cases diagnosed in 2019 alone. And whereas this year's World AIDS Day theme, Ending the HIV/AIDS Epidemic, Resilience and Impact, speaks to strengthening the capacity and resilience of communities and health systems to address HIV prevention services while in the midst of a global pandemic, and highlights the significant positive impact of tailoring efforts to diagnose, treat, prevent, and respond to HIV. Whereas certain groups, including men who have sex with men, transgender persons, African Americans, and Latinos, continue to be disproportionately affected by this disease. Whereas Centers for Disease Control data indicate that progress in the fight against HIV/AIDS in the US has stalled in recent years, as the annual rate of new HIV infections has held at approximately 38,000 since 2014. Whereas particularly in this time of pandemic, there is a real risk of an HIV resurgence. And World AIDS Day reminds us we must remain committed to ending the HIV/AIDS epidemic, promoting effective HIV prevention methods, including pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, and post-exposure prophylaxis, PEP, while expanding health equity, including LGBTQ plus healthcare, to ensure quality health care for all. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, on behalf of myself and on behalf of the entire town board, do hereby recognize December 1st, 2020 as World AIDS Day, and we encourage Brighton residents to help move the nation closer to an HIV-free generation by educating themselves and others about HIV/AIDS prevention. This proclamation was signed on December 1st, 2020, again by myself, on behalf of the entire town board. Okay, we will now begin our open forum. And as always, if there's anybody out there watching us that would like to call in with a question or a comment, please do so. 303-3060 is our number, 303-3060. Before we move on, though, I'm going to just a couple of remarks. First, I want to start by thanking Dr. Kevin McGowan and his entire team at the Brighton Central School District, as well as leaders at our private and religious schools in Brighton, like Tracy Glazer at Hillel Community Day School. We know the data shows that our schools are the safest place for our school-age children, particularly K through 8, during this pandemic. So when much of Brighton and most of our public and private schools located in Brighton were placed in the so-called orange zone, and I want to stress that action was taken by the state of New York. I know there's some confusion out there. That was not done by the town. It was not done by the county. The orange zone is a function of the state of New York. But what's important to note is that those leaders jumped into action. Their schools were going to be closed. They had to be closed for at least 4 days. And in that time, those school leaders and others set up testing programs to comply with the original testing requirements for orange zone school reopening. The results of this testing again demonstrated that our schools are being run in a safe and effective manner. The statistics for positive testing were extraordinarily low, particularly when compared to the community at large. At the same time, we reached out to the governor and to other elected officials to advocate for our schools. And I am pleased that now our schools are again open and operating in a way that meets the individual community needs as determined by those educational leaders. This is great news for our community and for our students, and I want to thank everybody that made that possible. Also in COVID-related news, in partnership with Monroe County, rapid testing, COVID testing has begun in Brighton, in Irondequoit, and in Rochester. And I want to thank County Executive Bello for reaching out to me soon after the orange designation occurred his office, and the county public health department. I thank them for the collaboration that went into getting testing up and running here in Brighton and in those other communities. In Brighton, testing is currently ongoing at Temple Brith Kodesh on Elmwood Avenue every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 until 4 in the afternoon. Pre-registration is required. We cannot, we're sorry, we cannot test people who have not pre-registered. We are, however, trying to increase capacity because we have seen registrations increase very quickly, fill up, in fact, very quickly. We're going to be doing that, I think, immediately. We're going to have more testing tomorrow, but I believe, again, those sessions are all filled up. I want to acknowledge the tremendous work that's been done by our Commissioner of Public Works, Mike Guyon, as the site coordinator for the testing at that site, as well have all been instrumental in getting testing here in Brighton off the ground. I also want to extend big thanks to Mike Udelson, Executive Director at Temple Brith Kodesh. When County Executive Bello reached out to me, the first thing we had to do was identify a site. And when I called Mike, he answered the phone, said yes, and worked with us and the county right from the get-go to make it all happen. I could not be more thankful than to have Temple Brith Kodesh and specifically Mike Udelson as partners on this and on many other community activities. Over and over, when there's a way that Temple Brith Kodesh can be of assistance, they say yes. Thank you. Now, last night we held the fourth of 4 community Zoom information meetings about community choice aggregation. As we've been telling you, CCA is a state-regulated energy supply model that gives residents and small businesses in Brighton a 100% renewable source energy supply at a very attractive price that's fixed for 2 years. Now, if you haven't been able to join us for any of these Zoom meetings, you can watch them on Monroe Community Power's Facebook page. People ask, what's the catch? What do I have to do to sign up? It sounds good. The answer is, in most cases, the answer is simple. There is no catch. And for most of us, you won't have to do anything to sign up. We'll be automatically enrolled in community choice aggregation as of January 1st. Again, thanks to the State Public Service Commission regulations that have encouraged these renewable energy plans. Now, if you haven't gotten a letter about community choice aggregation, or if you have questions, I encourage you to call Monroe Community Power at 244-0244. That's 244-0244. And someone will answer your questions. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, they're available for calls. And I'm very pleased to say again that thanks to community choice aggregation in Brighton, first community in Monroe County to do it, starting in January, you'll be able to enjoy the best of both worlds, renewable energy and great pricing on your utility bill. Very briefly, again, leaf pickup, it's going on. We've been lucky with the weather so far. So our crews have been moving through the town very effectively. We'll be continuing to pick up leaves as long as the weather permits. As always, if you go to the town's webpage, there are maps available where you can see exactly what part of town they're in. I would note, by the way, that to move that bulk pickup as quickly as possible, we do not have a separate crew picking up containerized leaves. We have all of our bulk crews, and we generally have 3 crews out every day. They'll be picking up bulk and containerized leaves for the time being. But again, we're going to keep picking them up. And kudos again to the Highway Department staff, and another round of kudos to you, Mike, for leading the band. We have not received any calls at this point.
Bill, if I might, we chatted earlier in the week, and I got an inquiry from a resident asking, how it was that Brighton was designated as part of an orange zone, and what are some of those criteria? Can you help us with any of that, or what? Or if you could just share with everyone else what we talked about.
Yeah, Chris, it's a great question. A lot of people ask it, and one of the points I made a moment ago, I know the person who talked with you thought we had made the decision. It's not a town decision. It wasn't a county decision. That was something that the state, as part of their microcluster program, has been engaged in. And there have been yellow and orange zones, and even in some places red zones throughout the state. I have to be honest. It is not entirely clear to me the data that the state relied on in making that judgment. The zones cross zip code lines, they cross community lines. What I can say, and what I think everybody that's following COVID knows, is that the rates, particularly here in the Rochester Finger Lakes region, have been going up dramatically. And by dramatically, we're talking at numbers well above where we were last April in terms of numbers of cases. That's a situation coming into the holidays that our public health officials, Dr. Mendoza, are warning us. If we don't follow the rules very, very carefully, are going to just leave us in a terrible position. So the governor has more recently indicated that he's going to be looking at hospitalization as a primary metric. The capacity in our local hospitals has been decreasing. There are fewer open beds and fewer open ICU beds. The governor, in his recent press conferences, has been talking about, not only here in the Rochester area, but throughout the state, having hospitals who are affiliated. Here, of course, that's the U of R medical system and Rochester Regional Health, the 2 primary hospital and care systems in the Rochester Finger Lakes area, to be prepared to transfer patients within those systems as needed. And if things get even tighter, to be prepared to transfer patients across systems. We're not there yet, but we could be if the numbers continue to get worse. So I hope that helps in terms of how we've gotten here. But again, I just want to say, we've just gone through Thanksgiving. I still heard too many stories of people who traveled, too many stories of people who had Thanksgiving with their family. I love my family. I love my kids, my grandkids. They don't live with me. As we come into the Hanukkah season, the Christmas season, Kwanzaa, New Year's, those are festive seasons. I know it. But this year, the way to be joyful, the way to be festive, The way to celebrate the holidays is not the way we've done them in the past. It is not to get together with family. It's not over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. Grandmother is in a vulnerable population. And I can't say strongly enough, this year, celebrate the holidays with your household, period. Period. Whether you're traveling to Florida or Fairport, you're going too far. Celebrate the holiday with your household. Businesses, other organizations have gone remote with Zoom and similar remote communications. This year, we all need to do that for the holidays, for our grandmother's sake, for our children's sake, for the sake of those ICU nurses and respiratory therapists and everybody else who's bearing the brunt of what has been a year like no other. This is no time for us to let down our guard. Please celebrate the holidays, but only with your immediate household. That's not your children who live across town. Celebrate with your household in person.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Bill, with that, I move that we approve the agenda as before us.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey?
Aye. Public hearings. Tonight, we have 2 public hearings. And we will start with the public hearing on tree removals at 220 Esplanade, 745 Penfield Road at the corner of Colonial Village, 131 Sylvan Road and 142 Sylvan Road. And I'll ask the town clerk, has the necessary legal notice been provided in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor. Notice was published in the November 19th edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
And notice was also, I trust, provided to adjoining property owners pursuant to town law.
That is correct, Bill. The notices were sent out.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Dan. Okay, I then declare this public hearing to be open, and I'll ask Mike, you all have a package about each of these trees, but I'll ask Mike to talk about where we're at with these trees.
Sure. Each of the trees has been deemed to be unhealthy. We did present the reports from our highway staff to the tree council. They were in agreement with the reports. Also presented, we were able to present this one, I believe, to the Public Works Committee. We snuck that one in before we ended up discontinuing the meeting. So the Public Works Committee also saw these trees. All the trees diameters are 30 inches or greater, which make them significant trees, and therefore the requirement for this public hearing tonight.
Thanks, Mike. I would note that with respect to one of these trees at 220 Esplanade, you have some communication with the owner of that property, Mr. Futterman, that is also included in the record, and I will ask that that be formally incorporated as part of the record of this public hearing, along with the materials that are attached. Is there anyone watching at home that would like to comment on any or all of these trees and their proposed removal as part of this public hearing? And while we wait to see if anybody would like to, are there any comments from members of the board?
I have one question. I see in the communications, Mike, with Mr. Futterman, that the replacement tree will go in spring of 2022. Is there a reason? What is the reason for the year-long time frame for replacement?
Generally, what we're trying to, we still have to catch up from last year. So the trees we take out from this year, we will plant in the spring of 2021. So this tree probably will not be taking out after the public hearing, probably won't be removed until probably the spring of 2021. So that would put it a year out. So then we would be putting the replacement tree in 2022.
Great, thank you.
And I've been advised that we have not received any calls for the public hearing. I'll confirm again, we did not receive any calls either for the open forum. And hearing no comment from the public, I declare this public hearing to be closed. And I'll ask Robin if you would make the motion on the resolution that's attached.
Certainly, Bill. On the matter regarding proposed tree removals at 220 Esplanade Drive, 745 Penfield Road on Colonial Village, and 131 and 142 Sylvan Road, I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Is that you, Chris, seconding that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. The second public hearing tonight relates to proposed speed limit reductions to 25 miles an hour on several streets located in the Evans Farm neighborhood. I'll again ask the clerk, has the necessary legal notice been published in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor. Notice was also in the November 19th edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you. Notice having been given, then I declare this public hearing to be open, and I'll ask Mike again to explain how we got here.
Thank you, Supervisor. This is one of the residents from the area asked us to go out and take a look at something. While we were out taking a look or investigating the area, we noticed that most of the roads in the area were 25 miles per hour speed limit, with the exception of the streets listed on the in the change tonight. It makes sense from a practical standpoint to have all the speed limits within a certain area to be identical or to be very, very similar. So we're requesting that those speed limits be reduced from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. And that would make the speed limit consistent in the area.
Thanks, Mike. I don't recall that any neighbors objected previously when the other streets in the neighborhood were reduced to 25. I have not heard any objection to these reductions, and we'll see if there is anybody that would like to comment on this public hearing. Again, they can call in at 303-3060, 303-3060 to call in concerning this public hearing about speed limit reductions on certain streets in the Evans Farm neighborhood. While we wait a minute to see if anybody does call in to participate in the public hearing, I'll ask if there are any questions or comments from members of the board.
Supervisor, this is Town Attorney Ken Gordon. I just wanted to comment following up on what Mike Ion presented. It would be nice and convenient if we were able as a town to pass a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit for an area or a neighborhood. We simply can't do that under state law. We have to do this street by street. So I know it's a bit labor intensive and burdensome to go street by street, and little curious that although the goal here is to have 25 miles an hour in the entire neighborhood, we do have to enact these local laws by street as we are doing here.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And I was sitting in your chair, I think, when we made a request under municipal home rule to be allowed to consider speed limit reductions in neighborhood or even townwide. And although at the time our local, our state legislators representing Brighton were supportive, if my recollection serves me, the governor's office at the time was not. Counsel for the governor did not recommend passage, so it hasn't happened. And it may well be time to go back. We'll have new state representatives and probably some new, over time, there are new faces in Albany. So it may well be worth a try, because I think in most of our neighborhoods, most of our residents prefer a uniform 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
I would add that in neighborhoods where you do see inconsistency and would like to have consistency, please bring it to the attention of the town. While you would think that we have encyclopedic knowledge of the speed limits throughout town on every bit of roadway, we don't, but we are absolutely at your service to assist in ensuring that there is consistency in the neighborhoods for the safety of all and for the cohesiveness in enforcement of speed limits as well. So
yeah.
Please do alert us.
Very true. Thanks, Christine. We have not gotten any comments from the public. Unless there's any other questions or comments from the board, I declare this public hearing to be closed. And Christine, I'll ask you for a action on the motion.
All right. In the matter regarding speed limit reductions to 25 miles an hour for Fairmeadow Drive from Edgewood Avenue to Greenvale Drive, Greenvale Drive from Fairmeadow Drive to Dartford Road, Evans Lane from Westfall Road to Idlewood Road, and Lynn Haven Court from Greenvale Road to the cul-de-sac, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Can I have a motion to receive and file the communications with the addition of two additional items that we only received this afternoon that I would like to include? One is email correspondence from Kristen Love to Jennifer Reese-Taggart, Library Executive Director, and one is from Michael Udelson, Executive Director at Temple Brith Kodesh. And with the addition of those two, can I have a motion to receive and file communications?
So moved.
Second, Chris. Oh, gotcha, Christine.
The first one you see in the letter, the resignation, really retirement, I think, of Vicki Penberg as a crossing guard. Vicki has been working, not for the town. Yeah, technically she gets a paycheck from the town, but she's been working for the kids. She's been working for the kids for over 40 years. Chief, do you want to talk a little bit about Vicki, because she's special?
Well, I would simply say that Vicki Penberg's an institution at Monroe and Torrington Drive. She, as you said, she's been a crossing guard for over 40 years. And she relayed to me that some of the children that she crossed, she actually had the name of one of the children. And that child, I say child now, is 57 years old. That's how long she's been there. And she did ask me, make a very firm request that after she leaves her post, she would like the next crossing guard to make sure that the children walk their bicycles across to Monroe Avenue. And I told her I would do that. But again, and Vicki was hired, and she wanted to thank Lieutenant Ed Pervier. For those of you who don't recognize the name, Ken Gordon, maybe you do. You've been around a while as well. I know him. He's probably been retired 30 years, but that's who hired.
I'll bet.
So yeah, an institution, and sad to see her go.
It really is, particularly at an intersection, that we know is one that by the traffic volume there and by the configuration and by some history is a very important intersection to have crossing guard who is diligent in his or her care for our children. And Vicki has been that and then some. So Vicki, we hate to see you go. Normally we would, ask if she wanted to come in and get some recognition. Chief, I don't know whether she'd be willing to come into a future meeting. We couldn't hand her one of those nice Brighton coffee mugs in person, but we could certainly get it to her and really give her that. There you go. And let the community give her, the kind of thing. So, if that's something she'd be interested in, let me know, and we'll Zoom her in at the next meeting.
I'll check with her. I know she was going to spend some time with family right around the holidays. I think she was actually going to travel.
But in any event, boy, I tell you, thank you, Vicki. Moving on to the good news, we have a letter from Wendy Gonzalez. Kudos to Mark Haygreen in the Highway Department. This is in connection with paving work that was done this summer on her street that solved a drainage issue that she's had in the past. And Mark, who is relatively new as one of our highway foremen, stepped up and got the problem solved. And Wendy was very happy. We also, that was good news. Even better news is when you get a letter like this one from Mike Keneally, who is the executive director of the Comp Alliance. And in his letter, he advises that the town of Brighton has been recognized with a Safe Workplace Award for 2019, through which Comp Alliance not only gives recognition, which is nice, but they also give the best kind of recognition, which is cash or check. And in fact, we have received a check for over $10,000 from the Comp Alliance. That's very much appreciated. And it's in recognition of our results and the safety results that we've seen in our various workplaces. So keep up the good work, everybody. Hopefully we'll get something in 2020 as well. Now these additional two communications, one I'd mentioned, Kristen Love to Jennifer Reese Taggart. It's so nice. 2 acts, as she says, 2 acts of kindness truly made one patron's day. Ms. Love came to the library thinking that that was where she would get the materials for her family for the Recreation Department's Fun with Frosty craft day that's coming up on Friday. Of course, we're checking temperatures and asking the screening questions at the front desk, and the woman there told her, no, they were able to figure out that she should go over to the Recreation Department for that. Well, she also had a fine to pay while she was there, and she didn't have enough money with her to pay the fine. And they were able to work it out, they were able to sign her up for text messages. So the next time she or maybe her children were a little late getting their books back, they'd get a text. And that's a service that, you know, the library wants people to know about. You can get a text if you have an overdue book. So you can cut the fine off more quickly that way. So I'll just read part of the letter and really the upshot of all. To thank Brighton Memorial Library, I'd like to donate a new book to the Children's Library. I can drop this off anytime you can take the donation. So Kristen, thank you so much for your kind letter and especially for the donation. Again, our people, in this case, it was the library, really go out of their way to make people's day, and we appreciate that. Now, this other letter from Mike Udelson, the executive director at Temple Brith-Kodesh, and I had mentioned Mike Udelson earlier in the role that Temple Brith-Kodesh has been playing in our testing program. But I wanted to read this email from Mike Udelson about the testing program. It says, just wanted to take a minute to recognize the great job Mike Guyon He is incredibly responsive and takes great care to make sure there are no adverse effects on Temple Brith-Kodesh as the testing proceeds. We both know it's not easy to coordinate things when there are multiple agencies and groups involved. Mike is handling it with professionalism and good humor at the fore. Please share with him how much we appreciate his efforts. Thank you. Michael Udelson, Executive Director, Temple Brith-Kodesh. So Mike, thank you. And really thank you for, as he says, you and the team have pulled together a bunch of agencies and you've made it work. And I don't want to short, you know, the county folks. You've worked with some great people at the county, but Mike Udelson has been great, but you've been great. Thank you, Mike. Just for that, we're going to keep making you do it every Tuesday and Thursday for the foreseeable future. Okay. We have a motion to receive and file all of those matters of communication. Any further comments on any of them? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Again, our town board committees are no longer meeting in person or actually at all due to the pandemic. But that doesn't mean that particularly our committee chairs aren't working on the areas within their jurisdictions. So we'll have each of the chairs report on their committees, starting with Councilmember Wilt, Chair of the Community Services Committee. Robin?
Thank you so much, Bill. The Community Services Committee was not scheduled to meet in the intervening time since the last town board meeting, but as you mentioned, I do have some updates from our department heads. From our recreation department, our recreation programs have been adjusted accordingly to continue to operate safely within our orange zone status. Thank you to all who have willingly made adjustments and demonstrated flexibility to continue classes online during this challenging and ever-changing time. We are working on developing our 2021 program offerings. So please do check out the website and your email and the Recreation Department Facebook page to stay up to date with all of our latest happenings. And we'd really love to have you join our online community. Bill, you mentioned earlier the Friday with Frosty on the Go winter celebration is a go. We went virtual and the community responded accordingly. We have an overwhelming Number of people responding to our first ever hybrid Friday with Frosty program. We have 30 youth registered to participate. Frosty was on hand earlier today to distribute our craft kits in preparation for our Friday, December 11th evening with Frosty's Zoom party. Registration was required for this event and is now closed. And thanks to everyone who registered. If you missed us, however, don't despair. We're already dreaming up new ideas for our next Take and Make event, so stay tuned. I wanted to update everybody on the Monroe County Grab and Go Senior Meal Program. Brighton seniors continue to provide grab and go style meals each week as part of the Monroe County Nutrition Program. You can order ahead packaged meals that are available to seniors age 60 plus. Meal pickup is now in Brighton at our own Brookside Recreation Center. So please contact us for full program details and to place your order. The number for that is 585-784-5260, extension 0. Please just leave your name and phone number and we will follow up with all the details. Our Brighton Farmers Market is open and following COVID-19 procedures. The winter season is being conducted outdoors. It is on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. from November 29th through December 20th. And that is in the Brighton High School parking lot at 1150 Winton Road South. Pre-order is still encouraged, but not required. And you can see the Brighton Farmers Market website for full details. That website is www.brightonfarmersmarket.org. Recreation updates will be communicated via email, the town website, and the Recreation Department Facebook page, so do stay tuned. Then up from our Parks Department, we have canceled all facility reservations up through the end of December. Unfortunately, it's looking like we will be extending that moratorium through January. At this time, we are not accepting any future reservations until state regulations become more defined for public gatherings, given our orange zone status. On the upside, the parks continue to be heavily used on a daily basis, even with the water and outdoor bathrooms closed for the season. So as a reminder, we do ask that the public please practice social distancing by staying at least 6 feet away from other people and wear a mask. The extended string of nice weather has given us the opportunity to continue working on park maintenance projects. We will be working to fill the full-time position, which was unfortunately recently vacated by Rich Wagner's retirement, as soon as possible. An update to our CCA program, and Bill mentioned a lot of what I'm going to be saying, but I think it bears repeating. Residents and small businesses within Brighton should have received a letter announcing that Brighton has accepted bid from Source Power for New York State generated hydropower energy. As such, Brighton will become the first municipality in Monroe County to launch a community choice aggregation program. This program will allow us to leverage our collective purchasing power to reduce our energy prices. The price fixed for 2 years is lower than that of other renewable sources of energy and lower than what RG&E typically charges its customers for non-renewable sources of energy. The program will begin on January 1st, 2021. And because it is based on New York State recs, it will qualify Brighton for certain NYSERDA grants. We ask that you also consider opting up to the town's community solar program, also with Source Power, so that your participation in community solar will also provide the opportunity for Brighton to invest in sustainability projects within our community. The last of the public information meetings regarding Monroe Community Power Community Choice Aggregation within Brighton was yesterday, December 8th, but you can find the information about those events and the slideshow at the Monroe Community Power Facebook page. And finally, an update to our IDEA, or Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board. Our members have, for the most part, completed hosting focus group discussions with a variety of constituencies within our community. And we are now finalizing a public-facing website and developing programming on structural racism through our Brighton Recreation Department. In addition, the board continues to incorporate feedback for our from our Public World Cafe listening sessions to begin development of the Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Action Plan. That's all I have. The next meeting would have been scheduled for January 20th, is the third Wednesday of the month in 2021, but right now we are not meeting in person. That's all I have. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robin. Finance and Administrative Services, Jason.
Yes, Bill, Finance and Administrative Services has not met and due to the COVID pandemic, and our committee's not meeting in person. However, Finance Director Paula Parker did circulate last week a list of action items together with supporting correspondence on the various requests on tonight's town board agenda, and those will be discussed in further detail and voted upon. The next meeting would have been on December 15th. However, we're not meeting. And hopefully sometime after the first of the year, we'll be meeting in person again. But for the time being, we're going to stay the course and not meet in person.
Thanks, Jason. Public Safety, Christine.
Public Safety would have met yesterday, but we are following safety protocols as well. Short update though. Received an update from the Rochester Fire Department, which serves West Brighton. They gave an update on their October and November activities. Of note, in October, they responded to 54 incidents in West Brighton, with a total of 581 incidents for 2020 at that point. And in particular, this, it seems like very old news now, but it was a big deal when it happened. The greatest incident of significance in October in that the Rochester Fire Department responded to in Brighton was the Zamboni fire at the Gold Braes Iceplex. So symbolic of so many things in 2020, and thankfully everyone emerged unscathed, and the driver was unhurt. He was able to get the machine off the ice and extinguish the fire. RFD arrived and assisted with getting the machine outside and verified that the fire was fully extinguished. And the fire department also ventilated smoke from inside the building. That probably qualifies as their most unusual call of the year, if not the decade.
And it made the national news.
It
Put
did.
Brighton in the national news.
It did. In November of this year, the City of Rochester Fire Department responded to 60 incidents in West Brighton, and nothing was nearly as spectacular as the Zamboni fire, thankfully. And they continue to monitor the current COVID-19 response guidelines and respond as recommended with all safety protocols in place. The Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, not to be outdone by Frosty, they will be sending Santa around parts of Brighton, visiting many neighborhoods. Let's see, on December 15th, 16th, and 17th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Santa will be riding in a Brighton Volunteer Ambulance vehicle throughout town. You can check out their Facebook page to see which neighborhoods Santa will be visiting and when. Be careful not to injure yourself, though. Should you need equipment from the Brighton Volunteer Ambulance loan closet, unfortunately, due to COVID, the loans have been suspended. And bear with me one moment. There are alternative locations for sourcing. Here we go. Sourcing equipment that you might have otherwise borrowed from the loan closet. You can source them from Monroe Wheelchair, Fonte Surgical Supply, and Eastside Medical Supply, all in Brighton. Again, you can find information about that on the Brighton Ambulance website, which is brightonambulance.org. And Brighton Police Department, folks may have seen the recent very good news about a good deed done by a taxi driver when he learned that his rider was on her way to take out significant funds, supposedly to assist a relative in distress. Chief, do you want to finish that very heartwarming story?
Sure. So Mr., if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Tagayev, he's an owner operator of a taxi service. And as you were saying, his fare received one of those phone calls. It was definitely a scam. The taxi driver, owner operator, recognized it. And instead of just taking his fare to the bank to withdraw money, which would have led to several thousands of dollars in loss, he brought her here to the police department and connected her with one of our officers. We convinced her it was a scam. So, you know, he did the right thing. He was even hesitant to come to the police department himself to be recognized. But he did the right thing. I'm glad that he did. And hopefully it's a good reminder. He wanted to make sure that everybody in the community is aware that, you know, these scams exist. Unfortunately, they target our vulnerable population. And because it's, you know, it's just very difficult for sometimes our older generation. They're so trusting and they want to believe and they want to help. But take that second pause. If you need to contact the police department, we can at least point you in the right direction. But anyways, he did a very good job. I'm very appreciative of his efforts, and I was happy to recognize him.
We're glad that you were able to convince him to accept the accolades he deserved. And I want to emphasize too that it's a very good example of our police department assisting community members. It's not just the scary crimes in scary violent crime in the street that our police department protects us from, serves us with, but it's the quotidian things like befuddled seniors who are at risk of being taken advantage of. And so we're grateful to the police department as well for assisting her in that situation. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee might be on Tuesday, January 12th, 2021. Who knows? We'll stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, if folks have any concerns that should be brought to the attention of the Public Safety Committee, contact information for all committee members is at townofbrighton.org/public safety committee. That is all.
Thank you, Christine. And last, Chair of the Public Works Committee, Chris Warner.
You see me unmute that?
Very nice.
Well, Bill, you've already stepped in my rice bowl and reported on two of the items on my list here, but the COVID testing site is up and running, and Mike Guyan's been doing a great job over there, as the rest of the town has as well. Tuesdays and Thursdays, folks, please make a reservation, 2 to 4 p.m. The leaf pickup, we're bringing that to a close. They're in sections 15 and 16 tomorrow, 16 and 17 on Friday. And I think we've had a really good season this year, and the weather has cooperated, but that's great. Winter's Farm Market, we're in the home stretch, and the contractor's completing the interior finishes at the existing barn. And we anticipate that this phase of the project will be completed in early to mid-January. And that's what I've got from the Public Works Department. And if we were to meet in person, it's always the first Tuesday of the month, which would be January 5. But again, we'll continue to report at town board meetings of the department's progress. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Chris. No, I do not anticipate any committee meetings, at least during January. And given where the numbers are, very possibly longer than that. But in any event, I appreciate everybody giving their reports. And Next, we can move on to new business, starting with you, Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $2,377,361.17. Notable claims included 2 election inspectors in the aggregate amount of $38,478.50 for 141 election inspectors paid for their services on the November 3rd elections. And we wish to thank all of our election inspectors for their services in this regard. Also to Birchcrest Tree and Landscape in the amount of $9,717.52, representing payment for tree removal services. Also to Roman Construction Development Corp. in the amount of $21,988.10 for services related to the 2020 sidewalk repair program and release of a prior retainage. To Scanex Pipe Service in the amount of $30,040, representing payment for the 2020 sanitary sewer pipe relining project on Clover Street. And finally, to the New York State and local retirement system in the amount of $2,086,394, representing the mandatory retirement contributions for town employees for the period of April 1, 2020 through March 31, 2021. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Can I have a second?
Second, Robin.
Thanks, Robin. I would note that that very large, the retirement system claim, by making that payment before December 15th, we do get a discount on that, do we not, Paula? I can't remember the exact amount. Is it 2%?
It is, yep, and we pay that early instead of paying it, I believe, in February. So we take that discount because we can save that money.
Absolutely. When you talk 2% of 2 million, it's real money. Good, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on any of that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Christine.
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Speedy Cleaners for 1 year from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, with the option of 3 annual renewals for police uniform dry cleaning and laundering services. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Chris?
Thank you. Chief, anything you want to say about your dry cleaning?
Well, as you can see by the agenda tonight, it's that time of the year where we start renewing all of our contracts for the next year so we can. And no, it's not only to keep the officers looking neat, pressed, and professional. It's because of some of the biohazards that we come into contact with, rather than have them take their uniforms home and clean them in their personal washing machines. We do this dry cleaning service. The terms and conditions have not really changed from years past, other than that we're delivering 3 times a week instead of 5.
And we will have the opportunity, this is a 1 year, but with 3 option years that we'll have the option to renew.
Yes.
Any further discussions or any questions? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Christine, why don't you do the next one too?
Sure. The chief is asking for an awful lot right now, but I think it's all appropriate. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Southpaw Designs for 1 year from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, with the option of 3 annual renewals for police vehicle striping. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Robin.
Chief?
Again, it's that time of the year to renew these contracts. Southpaw Graphics and Design have been a contract of ours for probably 5 years or longer. They do a great service for us. For those of you who don't know, we have to have 3M reflective decals on the vehicles to meet safety specifications. It's about, well, it's exactly $540 a vehicle to get it striped. They, again, no change in the terms or condition, and there has been no price change in this contract.
And it sounds like for the next 3 years, there won't be any change either. Good stuff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Robin, why don't I have you do the next two?
Certainly. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Animal Hospital of Pittsford for 1 year from January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021 for boarding and veterinary services. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Chris.
And this is fairly self-explanatory, but Chief or Dan, because Dan gets involved as well with animal work. Either one of you want to just briefly talk about this one? It's all yours, Dave.
You see, Dan, they've been a long-term vendor of ours as well. And the one thing that's unique about the Pittsford Animal Hospital is they provide 24-hour emergency care for our pets. So that's really unique about them. Very slight increase in prices from 2020. Unless Dan has something else to add.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Sounds good.
Supervisor,
Yep.
Ken Gordon, just wanted to point out, actually, the contract that we enter into is with Monroe Veterinary Associates, and the resolution provides that. So does actually the proposed contract that's attached to the chief's correspondence. So just so it's not just the Pittsford Animal Hospital, it's also they provide services through the Animal Emergency Services, which is on White Spruce and one other place as well. It escapes me at the moment, but it's all part of a related organization called Monroe Veterinary Associates.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for that.
And I'd like to add that the Pittsford Animal Hospital, the Monroe Veterinary Services are all located in Brighton. So we're supporting local business, even if the name suggests otherwise.
Thank you, Christine. You know, since you mentioned that, I had a similar discussion on social media just yesterday, thinking about the tree, that corner of Penfield Road and Colonial Village is the Tree Town Cafe. They're a great business, and someone mentioned that they got that they had cocoa bombs, I believe, there, and talked about Tree Town Cafe in Penfield. And I said, boy, what a great shout out. Thanks for mentioning this business on Penfield Road, but it's in the town of Brighton. So it never fails. People have a hard time figuring out our boundaries, but we go out to Penfield Road, we go out to West Henrietta Road, and we certainly even include Pittsford Animal Hospital on Monroe Avenue. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. And the next one, Robin.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Geese Control of New York from April 1st, 2021 through November 30th, 2021 for geese control. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. And of course, whenever we think about geese control, we think about our late friend Jim Vogel, who was really the driving force many, many years ago in contracting for geese control work, working with the police department, making sure that we take various measures to reduce the number and the impact of all the geese in several areas here in the town of Brighton. And that continues to this day under this contract. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none? Oh, Ken, yes, sir. When you mute, we'll listen to you. When you unmute, we'll listen to you.
I tried doing the space bar thing. It wasn't working. Again, just sort of a hyper-technical lawyer kind of thing. Actually, we're not entering into a contract with an entity known as Geese Control of New York. And I know we've used this, name for many, many, many years. Actually, that's just the assumed name of an individual named Gordon Cornbow, who owns the dogs and runs the dogs and owns the business. So you'll see in the resolution, actually, it does provide that it's authorizing you to sign a contract with Mr. Cornbow doing business as Geese Control in New York. Again, just sort of hyper-technical, but want to make sure the record's clear.
Lawyer stuff. We lawyers love that stuff. Thank you. We have the motion and the second. Nothing further. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
The next matter.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $200 from the Public Works Department's Highway Town Landfill Printing / Copy Charges account to the Highway / Sewer Facility Office Equipment account to fund a portion of the cost of replacement AED. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Chris.
Yeah, the cost of the AED, they got a couple of quotes and they needed the $200 budget transfer to pay for it all. They had the rest already in the account, but this 200 will cover the cost, the shortfall. Any discussion? And of course, it is a replacement of an existing AED that they have had there and has now been in service long enough it needed to be replaced. Hearing nothing further, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Christine?
Yes. The next matter seeks to approve the hiring of Kevin Bardeen as part-time Assistant Fire Marshal effective December 14th, 2020. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Robin.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye, and you have in your communication a letter describing his very extensive experience, not only as a code enforcement officer, firefighter, Rochester Fire Marshal at U of R. So a lot of experience. We're fortunate to have him. Jason, the next matter.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to terminate the existing agreement with New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance and execute a new 2-year agreement with the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance for the term of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2022, in an amount not to exceed $393,644 plus any New York State assessment fees. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Robin.
So why would we cancel an agreement and then enter into a new agreement? Finance Director Paula Parker will tell us.
Yes, I will. The original agreement, as everybody recalls, we entered into that agreement. We saved about, I believe it was around $8,000 over the 2-year period. Well, Comp Alliance has come back and they have reduced their rates further. So by terminating the current year's contract early and entering into a new contract, we will see further savings of around $11,000 per year, which is $22,000 over the next 2 years. And we'll have fixed rates that we'll be able to easily budget for.
Thank you. Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Burke Group for actuarial services for a base fee of $4,000 and an interim valuation for a base fee of $2,250 for fiscal years ending December 31, 2020 and December 31, 2021, respectively. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Robin.
Paula, anything you want to add about the need for actuarial services?
Yeah, this is a recommendation and a ruling by the state of New York. So every other year we do a full-blown actuarial analysis for our other post-employment benefits, which is health insurance for retirees. On those off years, we usually didn't do any type of evaluation. Now what's being recommended again by the state is we do a interim update of those numbers. So we're going to be ending up doing some kind of review every year now.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason, the next matter, please.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize 2021 budget amendment to reflect compensation for non-represented employees. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Chris.
As you'll recall, when we were going through the 2021 budget, it was very clear that we were facing a revenue shortfall caused by the COVID pandemic that was large, growing, and very difficult really to get our arms around how much of a shortfall it was going to be and how long that shortfall was going to continue. We were also facing a situation where there was really no indication that there would be any federal help or frankly, any help anywhere else. So at the time we adopted that budget, we made some assumptions on salaries for non-represented employees and related matters. We anticipated we would have to hold those all flat for 2021. We have now learned that the county, with some of the CARES Act money that they had previously received, is going to be making a payment to the town, a significant payment to the town. And based on that payment, while we are still very short on revenues this year due to the COVID, particularly sales tax revenues, but other revenues, Jason talked earlier about, or someone talked earlier about our lodges being closed and our rec programs being closed. All of that costs us significant revenues. But based on the funds being made available from the county, it is my recommendation that our non-represented employees receive a 2% increase in 2021, and that there's a cost of living increase, and that step increases and longevity increases also be restored as they would be in the ordinary course of business. That's my recommendation, and I hope you will join me in taking that action. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, and you have there an indication of the financial impact, close to $125,000. It is significant, and that's why we had made the judgment earlier. We weren't sure whether it made sense. We now believe it does, and we will. Hearing no further discussion, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin, if you could do the last one here.
Certainly. On the matter that seeks to authorize correspondence to Governor Cuomo regarding an executive order to suspend the requirement to renew the senior citizens and disability real property tax exemption for 1 year, I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, Jason.
This came to me through the assessors, and as you know, the senior exemption, the disability exemption generally require updating each year so that we can confirm that the residents claiming that exemption are still eligible based on their financial condition. Now, while many of those exemption updates are done either through the mail, they do drive a significant amount of traffic in a normal year into the tax assessor's office. There are questions. People aren't sure what documentation they need to provide. So it's one of the things that makes town hall typically busy around year end. The assessors came up with this communication. They work with the State Association of Towns, and I am encouraging us to write, and I ask that this be put on the agenda so that we could all express our desire to have this happen. Now, I will say that this is, as the assessors have noted, this would be done by local option. So if in fact the governor issues an executive order, it is likely that we will still have to take action as a town board to implement it. So this may not be the last you hear about this, but we all hope that as the governor's office gets many, many requests to suspend this annual renewal requirement, that he will take action very shortly, because we're obviously running out of time, to avoid all those folks having to come in and make sure that they're still eligible and talking with our assessor. So I would ask that this communication be authorized, and it will note that although it may be my signature, it is joined by all of my colleagues on the town board. We have a motion and a second. Dan, is there anything else you want to say about?
Well, I was just going to note that we're not coming up on an end of the year deadline. It's March 1st is the cutoff. So there is still plenty of time for the folks. If this doesn't happen, there's still a lot of time to make this go well.
Right.
In talking to Sue earlier today, she noted she was about 60% of the folks were already in. So she felt like she was in good shape. Again, if this did not go ahead, she felt very optimistic. She's been doing car side service for our seniors in her, excellent fashion that she has. So they just call when they get here, and she's, runs out to the parking lot and collects their forms, makes whatever copies, and brings stuff back and forth to them. So they don't have to, it sounds like she's got a lot of really good feedback from our seniors that have come into this point. So just a couple little notes on.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Frosty the Snowman did curbside today, but Sue Wentworth does curbside anytime our residents need her to, and that's great. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeBonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, I only want to wish all of our members of the community who are celebrating a very happy Hanukkah beginning tomorrow evening at sundown. Matters of the attorney.
I just have one matter to discuss in executive session regarding litigation with the board.
We will do that. Thank you. Matters of the town clerk.
Nothing this evening. I think we're good.
All righty. Matters of the town board. All right, then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss a matter of litigation?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I heard Chris and Robin, I believe. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeBonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. We will be going into executive session. I don't anticipate that we will be coming back out into public session. So thank you, everybody who watched us this evening. Again, a very happy Hanukkah to everyone that celebrates. Our next town board meeting, again, will be on Zoom, as well as live streamed and broadcast on our cable access channel 1303. That will be on December 22nd at 7 p.m. Is that date right? Okay, good.
That's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. I knew something didn't look right about that. Tuesday, December 22nd. Okay, everybody have a great evening, board members, and I don't think we need anybody other than Ken to stay. Please stay here for executive session. Thanks to our interpreters. Good night, everybody.